Jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
The challenge facing the United States is that we have to be right one time. 100% of the time.
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's.
This shit's bad for my career.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Frogs gay.
The lunar landings were more than likely fabricated.
Michael Jackson, he moonwalked. NASA detonated. The moon doesn't even exist.
Oh my god, that's the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
I'm not gonna lie, you threw a curveball at me.
The Illuminati, this is their main form of communication. They meet at the cloning station.
Reptilian, non-human race.
That's nonsense.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
Aliens.
R. Kelly nuked Paul Walker's car.
I can't believe the Philippines would do anything dodgy.
I mean, we've got to look at the facts here.
I doubt we will.
It's hard for me to explain why that was the case. Just take my word for it.
Jesus fucking Christ, James.
Okay, that's a blooper right there.
That's gone. Deleted.
No, come on.
Did you delete it?
Yeah. You can hit undo. If you're keeping Aryan in, and
I want to. It's just your face going.
So, this is not a famous popular podcast who I wrongly named as ass 2 minutes ago. This is Jet Fuel Can't Melt Steel Beams. I'm Ben.
I'm Rob.
James, how you doing, guys? You all right?
Not bad. Episode 2 of Hitler.
Part 2.
Spy.
Fucking no.
Aryan.
I didn't learn that language. We're the country that won.
Exactly. Don't need to learn that language.
Oh, that pizza's made me feel pretty stodgy right now. I think it's competing with a protein shake.
Oh fuck!
I don't know who's coming first, but
If I hear your tummy rumble, I am not gonna be happy.
oh, where's my bull semen?
Birthing a wee cat bomb right now.
Okay, sound guys. Okay, so on the subject of food, are we ready for some random
On the subject of food, some food for thought.
random Chinese food facts?
Oh, okay.
This is our random shitty fact that I have every episode.
I love it.
Okay, so
Please tell me you've got a segue from Chinese food into Hitler.
I'll try. Might have to go back to protein shakes, but we'll see. Okay, so again, you may well know this. I don't know a lot of things. So the Great Wall of China was constructed using sticky rice. Workers built the Ming Dynasty sections of the Great Wall around 600 years ago by mixing together a paste of sticky rice flour and lime as a mortar. It's a very
Tumbleweed.
very, very glazed look there, Rob.
No, there was a. I'm not gonna fact check it.
It's fact, Joe.
Okay. That's interesting.
Okay. And the Chinese also boil their eggs in young virgin boys' piss.
Well, every Chinese person.
No.
I was about to say painting. Very, very
broad.
The original name, virgin boy eggs, is used to name the delicacy from the city, wait for it, Dongyang. And it's been practiced for hundreds of years.
All right. So essentially fermenting eggs and piss then?
Yeah, apparently it's delicious.
Yeah.
I've never tried it, I don't know.
I had a 1,000,000-year egg. They also said it was delicious. They were fucking lying.
They also fucking just eat fucking anything. Again, tar brush.
Yes. And on that,
And we're Scottish. We fucking deep fry everything. We've got nothing to talk about culinary.
We don't eat fucking bird's nest soup though. That's
No, that's true.
so on
We eat
the
haggis.
it's fine.
It's great for us. It's great. It's great.
A number of Chinese food companies were actually prosecuted for marinating their meat in goat urine and making tofu out of raw sewage.
Oh, God.
Lovely. And finally,
That's grand.
I thought this was your fact. Singular.
maybe I speak for myself.
This is more of an attack against the race.
Maybe I speak for myself when I say a drive-through at a fast food restaurant is for quickly getting your food and driving away so you don't have to get out of your car. In China, when a Chinese person goes to a drive-through, I'm not going to name brands, so let's say they visit McBurger Fried Chicken Hut drive-through, they use it to get their food before parking up and bringing it back in the fucking restaurant. Now, I know it's a cultural thing, but I think that's pretty strange. Now, on the subject of strange, how do you guys feel about Hitler is still alive conspiracy theories?
That was by far your best segue yet.
That was effortless.
Keep going till it comes out.
I feel ready to
Tackle this.
Ready to tackle this.
Yeah, I'm ready to go down the rabbit hole.
So, yeah, a couple of things that were bugging me was obviously my terrible mispronunciation and the fact that I said Hitler had 4 biological siblings. He actually had 5 and 2 half-siblings, just for the record, in case Petrie's listening.
Since any of our many listeners want to write in, fact check you.
Tell me how to say things. Okay, so last episode we discussed a bit about Hitler's early life before moving into his military and political career. We then ripped him for a bit and discussed the official narrative of his death.
Cat bombs.
Today we're going to start our journey towards, yep, you got it, spiralling down the rabbit hole.
You got it.
We will discuss the reasons as to why there are so many conspiracies surrounding Hitler's death and on to some factual and logical approaches towards what may have happened had the dick not died in his bunker. Like we've been led to believe. And then maybe, just maybe, possibly, some not so intellectually driven arguments that we can discuss in depth.
They are by far what I'm waiting for the most.
So, as a normal protocol, we'll just escalate. Okay, so let's go into the Hitler's apparent survival and the reasons for the theories. So, as discussed again last episode, we went over the official narrative, which told us that Hitler committed suicide in his bunker by biting a capsule of cyanide and shooting himself in the head prior to the imminent arrival of Allied forces. Conspiracy theories about Adolf Hitler's death obviously contradict the fact that he committed suicide in the Führer bunker on that day.
Was that the official name of the bunker?
The Führer
bunker.
Yeah. Most of these theories entail that Hitler and his wife survived and escaped from Berlin, Germany, and Europe.
Who were the burnt bodies?
We'll get to that. We will get to that. So,
no stone unturned. I like it.
I know, probably just a couple of the fucking dogs they just lined up in a position.
That looks like Hitler.
Yeah, that looks like Hitler. Just a sausage dog.
Rumours of Hitler's survival have existed for years, with some even claiming that he's still alive today. The theory that Hitler did not commit suicide but instead escaped with his wife was promoted by the Soviet government as part of its state-sponsored disinformation campaign. This is probably the main catalyst for its widespread belief. It was first presented to the public by Marshal Georgy Zhukov at a press conference in 1945. On orders from Soviet leader Joseph Stalin. When asked at the Potsdam conference in July 1945 how Hitler had died, Stalin said he was living in Spain or Argentina.
It'd be great if sounds like, I don't know. I'm too busy doing a lot worse than Hitler.
So this has led the way for various conspiracy theories despite the official narrative and findings from near the end of the war, and the general consensus of historians that Hitler did kill himself on the 30th of April 1945. Declassified FBI documents contain a number of alleged sightings of Hitler, along with theories of his escape from Germany. The FBI states that the information within those documents pertaining to the escape and sightings of Hitler cannot be verified, Again, that's more than enough for conspiracy theorists to cling on to.
Yes, they fucking cling on to anything.
Klingons. Everyone loves a Klingon.
The one bit we just thought of was just to go, cling on. Just anything is like... We're learning this through our first couple of episodes. Do you know what I mean? Is that if you're a big enough name and you die in your prime...
You didn't die.
You didn't die.
On the 30th of May 1946, while the Soviets were investigating the previously mentioned rumours of Hitler's survival, 2 skull fragments were retrieved from the crater where Hitler was meant to have been buried. A left piece of the parietal bones, which is the 2 large bones in the human skull which, when joined together, form the sides and roof of the cranium, had gunshot damage. It was kept in the Russian Federal Archives in Moscow and was strongly believed to be Hitler's for decades. In 2009, however, samples of the skull were DNA tested at the University of Connecticut by a bone specialising archaeologist. The sample was found to be that of a woman aged under 40, and obviously not Adolphus's.
Could have been his
Yeah,
wife,
could not
who
be
was also
Shiva.
buried in
Yeah.
the same fucking hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, okay. Debunked. Next.
No. Could well be, yeah. Could well be. We'll get to a bit more information onto that in episode 3.
Fucking hell.
So, we're going to touch on some of the Nazi escapees, getting further evidence as to why people think that Hitler escaped.
Just because other Nazis managed to go to Argentina. Why did they all go to Argentina?
We'll get to that. So, further conspiracy theories about Hitler's escape exist due to the fact that so many powerful and high-ranking Nazi leaders escaped either before or after the war finished without prosecution. Rat lines were a system of escape routes for Nazis and other fascists fleeing Europe at the end of World War II. These escape routes mainly led towards Latin America, with main relief targets consisting of Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, Colombia, Brazil, Uruguay, Mexico, Guatemala, Ecuador, and Bolivia. It's basically all of them.
South America.
Other notable...
Is there any ones that you didn't list there?
I don't know.
Only cool Peru sitting there going, nah, man, we didn't have it, you Nazis.
Other notable...
We're chill, we've got llamas.
No idea why I read every single one out. But let's go. Other notable escape targets included the USA and Switzerland. So, there were 2 primary routes. One route went from Germany to Spain and then to Argentina. The other from Germany to Italy, specifically travelling Rome to Genoa, then on to South America. The 2 routes developed independently for a while but eventually came together. Rat lines were actually supported by priests and clergy of the Catholic Church.
It's like the Silk Road for cunts.
I know, yeah.
Due to the Nazi-Vatican relationship at the time. This usually involved a rebaptism and forgery of documents to create a new identity for the fleeing Nazi, and was boosted by the Nazi SS connection within foreign governments, Catholic Nazi sympathisers and fascist Catholic priests dedicated to creating and building escape routes for captured Nazis. High-ranking Nazi officers who escaped include Albert Heijn, an Austrian SS doctor also known as Dr. Death.
Oh, that's a cool name. It's a shame it's for a Nazi, though.
During World War II, he served at the Mauthausen-Gusen concentration camp, killing and torturing inmates by various methods, such as direct injections of toxic compounds into the hearts of many poor victims.
Oh, that's really sound of him.
I know. Arse.
Just arse.
Klaus Barbie, an SS and Gestapo officer, which was the German secret police under Nazi rule.
Joke's on him. His name sounds like a fucking girl's toy.
I know. I was holding back there.
There was always
low-hanging fruit.
always a joke somewhere. So, during the Nazi era, he was known as the Butcher of Lyon for having personally tortured French prisoners of the Gestapo while stationed in Lyon, France. Fucking spent.
Oh, I'm sorry, the Resi 4 reference. It was good.
Franz Stangl, commanding officer of Sobibor and Treblinka extermination camps, an employee of the T4 euthanasia program Action T-Fear, the post-war name for the operation, which included the mass murder of many prisoners or unwanted through involuntary euthanasia in Nazi Germany. It's good. It's a pretty grim list.
So it's a list of like
keep going till
big heavy hitters, isn't it?
Yeah, very heavy hitters. It's just to prove a point. Gustav Wagner, commanding officer of Sobibor, where more than 200,000 Jews were gassed during Operation Reinhard. Due to his brutality, he was known as the Beast and Wolf.
Jesus.
Alois Brunner, responsible for the Drancy internment camp near Paris and in charge of deportations in Slovakia to German concentration camps. Adolf Eichmann, he was senior assault unit leader and one of the major organisers and driving force behind the Holocaust. And last but by no means least, Josef Mengele, otherwise known as the Angel of Death, a German Schutzstaffel SS officer and physician in Auschwitz concentration camp during World War II. He performed deadly human experiments on prisoners and was a member of the team of doctors who selected victims to be killed in the gas chambers. Most infamously known for experiments on twins, an effort to learn the secrets of multiple births and to find a quick way to multiply the German race.
It's fucking the last podcast episodes on Mengele just go into detail about how the fucking they're like knowledge of fucking human anatomy was so fucked.
the radius, that's your ankle.
Mostly the fucking like theories of like genetics and shit. It was all just like absolute fucking farcical nonsense. And they're like, fuck it, we've got free reign. Let's just get a go, see what happens. Like,
I really don't know that much about Mengele's his work. That's something I really didn't really look into, but I did look into quite a bit a long time ago about the Japanese. And,
their experiments.
If it's kind of in the same line as Mengele, it's pretty fucking grim.
But he was like, it was like kids. He experimented a lot on kids.
Yeah.
But what was it? It was like Uncle Mengele. Like he got them to like call him something like that.
It's just a strange, sadistic guy.
Yeah, but like he would like come in and just be like, oh, like fucking smiles and hugs and like give them like sweets and shit, and then just mercilessly fucking kill them. Like if they're not good enough for experiment, just take them out.
He
have them killed, like.
experimented on 1,000 pairs of twins. Only around 200 survived these experiments. When twins were no longer of use to Mengele, he'd hit them with an injection of chloroform straight to the heart and pretty much just throw them in the bin. What a sound guy. Yep, so it's pretty grim. So
he got away scot-free in Argentina.
Yes, so again, that's something we'll get to, but he was one of them that managed to flee, yeah. So that list that I just read to you was obviously a list of very sadistic, high-ranking Nazi officers that did manage to escape.
Leading credence to the believability that Hitler might have...
Quite possibly. Yeah. Quite possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So further, just on the note of grim, further sadistic Nazi experiments of note involved freezing prisoners to see what would happen. They froze to death. This was to try and
what a shock.
This was to try and work out a way to combat freezing conditions at war.
Russia.
They wanted to create their own Sub-Zero.
Basically.
A Nazi Sub-Zero.
Mr. Freeze.
If you freeze someone, they die. So they injected the tuberculosis bacteria directly into the lungs of subjects again to see what would happen.
They got tuberculosis.
Again, they died. It was believed some were naturally immune. They weren't. The Nazis wanted to know if a person's joints and limbs could be removed and transplanted into someone else or onto someone else. Every attempt to transplant a limb or joint was a failure. Many were killed, mutilated and exposed to excruciating pain. Sections of muscle, bone and nerves were severed in further crazy attempts to regenerate those specific body parts.
Kind of feel like I need to go for a shower after listening to
And finally, again to top off our grim section, artificial insemination. This is courtesy of topsecretwriters.com, and I quote, "The notorious Heinrich Himmler himself ordered a Nazi doctor to artificially inseminate concentration camp prisoners through various experimental methods. Dr. Carol Kloberg artificially inseminated about 300 women outfits who were strapped down and taunted mercilessly. Kloberg told his victims that he had used animal sperm to create a monster inside of them.
Jesus.
I mean, you're already fucking like. Why? Like,
Yeah.
why do they need the extra fucking?
I think it's
Or the broken.
Yeah.
And
it's obviously in their eyes the name of science, but they've got extreme sadistic tendencies that this is getting them off, but they're categorising it under fucking science.
Oh God.
So US and Israeli intelligence caught up with some of these Nazi war criminals. However, many lived out the rest of their days free, living in a different part of the world. Very grim. So who needs cheered up?
Me.
Do you want a fun war fact?
Yeah.
Is it a cheerful, fun war fact?
It's fairly cheerful, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So
That'd be a cat bomb.
in 1945, not long before the end of the war,
Wonder what cat would be the best for a cat bomb. Tabby? Siamese?
I think I wouldn't go Siamese. Because it's like, I don't know how they already look slimy. I can imagine the bomb slipping off them, especially when they get wet. They get dropped into the sea.
Have you used the bald cats? Like,
the fucking
The Egyptian cat.
Egyptian.
aye.
I don't know. I just like really fat cats.
Garfield.
Yeah. I want like
Can't get the bomb strapped on.
lasagna cat. Because they're buoyant as well. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, James. What's your fun?
Okay, so in 1945, not long before the end of the war, the German submarine U-1206, while cruising 200 feet down just off the coast of Peterhead in Scotland, was sunk after an officer took a shit and blocked and flooded the toilet. Large amounts of water started flooding the boat. A crewman's botched repair caused chaos, causing a further leak which flooded the submarine's batteries, leading to the release of chlorine gas. With shit and piss flying everywhere, they were forced to the surface where the submarine was immediately spotted and bombed straight away.
That's it. That's what happens when you get into Scottish waters. You'll get fucked up.
Just being in the vicinity of a fried Mars bar just clogs your toilet.
Like your belly just instantly goes into fear.
So, feeling a bit better now, boys?
But yeah.
Okay, in 2014, over 700 FBI documents were declassified, revealing the US government had undertaken an investigation in the late 40s and 50s into the possible escape of Adolf Hitler from Germany. Some leads suggested he had not committed suicide in Berlin but had fled Germany in 1945 and eventually had arrived in Argentina via Spain via a mix of the rat lines discussed earlier. Within the pages of these documents are hundreds of statements naming people and places involved in Hitler's alleged journey from Germany to South America, including reference to the rat lines that were already in place by that point. Additional CIA documents contain alleged sightings and a photograph of a man resembling Hitler in Colombia in 1954. There exists a memo in the CIA document list which introduces the idea that the CIA had caught up with Hitler while in his time within Colombia, but he was not prosecuted. The memo reads, Hitler left Colombia for Argentina around January 1955.
I didn't say anything.
You're trying your best. Thanks. And as much as 10 years had passed since the end of World War II, the Allies could no longer prosecute Hitler as a criminal of war. These kind of dodgy open interpretation documents send conspiracy theorists wild. So let's get into the theories.
Yes.
Yes. This is solid time.
I want to know what he's supposed to have done with his time.
In Argentina.
Yeah.
Just grow a proper tash.
Yes. Yeah, they're getting like a handlebar.
Just longer in the middle.
Where is my Hugo Boss clothes? Not allowed to wear that here. You can wear a leisure suit. I think maybe it's not a pair of like Hawaiian shorts. Still scowling and shit like that. Oh God, I just ugh.
Yep.
It's a weird thing. 'Cause I met a lot of people traveling, But it was always one thing it came up with Argentinian travellers.
Why tell you Hardwood the Nazis?
It would be that thing where like the people go like, no, Argentina's the best. Do you want Buenos Aires? We're all happy, we're all cool. And there's always like one person like, but you took the fucking Nazis in, didn't you? And they would be like, oh, it was a later generation. I was like, doesn't matter.
Still fucking did it.
Not that sound. That's not a sound act. Jesus, the fucking angel of death.
Yeah,
Got away.
I think he died a pretty grim life. He was obviously constantly like paranoid about being caught because he knew people knew he'd escaped. And I think he died of a stroke in a swimming pool, age 75.
Well, he obviously
didn't 75.
I know, but
he didn't have it that bad. It was in a swimming pool.
Yeah, but he lived his whole life in fear, like always on the run. He had to keep changing where he lived. I know it doesn't.
So good.
It's not good. No, absolutely. I'm not condoning
You're putting yourself in a
that.
weird position, James.
I'm not condoning that.
Defending the angel of death.
For fucking Christ.
That angel of death that lived in Argentina.
Dirty Aryan Klingon.
Send the cat bombs after him.
I'm not gonna lie, that is something that is quite upsetting. You're like, this fucker got away.
I know.
But oh well.
I hope he fucking stubbed his toe on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stood on Lego and plugs.
Yeah. It must be weird. It would be like being in Argentina. I was like, oh, so what do you do? Oh, I was the angel of death. But now I'm just kind of living laid back now.
Yeah. Do a bit of farming, a bit of swimming.
You wouldn't happen to have twins, though, would you?
Oh, Jesus. And if you see an Israeli spy, let me know.
I know.
So, first video on this nice list for you. Hitler fled on a ghost convoy to Argentina. So this is the most common theory of Hitler's survival, is that he stashed stolen Nazi treasure before fleeing with his wife, Eva Braun, to South America.
A ghost convoy?
So like just a hidden... just a secret...
I was just imagining something very Scooby-Doo there.
Yeah, like a proper ghost ship. Yeah. Like a ship that brings the fog with it.
It's a very off-the-radar rat-line trip, basically. Yeah. So, as mentioned earlier, Argentina has long been associated with claims of surviving Nazis, with some even claiming it was a base for a surviving wing of the SS, fueled by the fact that, as discussed earlier, several high-ranking individuals of the Nazi regime did escape to Argentina. This theory suggests that Hitler went on board U-boat U-977 and together with U-boat U-530 departed on a journey from Norway to southern Argentina that took roughly about 2.5 months. Reports of Hitler and Eva Braun's sightings in Argentina made newspaper covers all over the world at this time, leading to a large, exhaustive investigation from the US, resulted in an inconclusive report of over 700 pages with not a lot of answers. Some people believe this theory to be the shit, and that Hitler, together with his wife, lived happily ever after in a hidden Argentinian cave. The arrival of 2 U-boats in Argentina in the weeks after the war led to more speculation that Hitler had joined his former Nazis there.
What was he doing while he was in a cave?
Yeah.
Living like fucking Tom Hanks in Castaway. Do
you think maybe he had like a...
living out.
Do you think maybe he had like the cave of like a Bond villain? It's like loads of like
Skull Island.
Yeah, loads of like Art Deco shit, and all the workers in silver suits.
Either that, or it was like fucking the Swiss Family Robinson.
Hey, honey, I'm home.
The Hitler Treehouse.
Now, the U-boats U-530 and U-977 arrived at Mar del Plata in Argentina in July and August 1945, respectively. However, Heinz Schaffer, one of the officers on the U-boats, has always strenuously denied being part of a ghost convoy. But of course he will, no? This would implicate him.
I don't know, I think being a Nazi would implicate him enough.
Did the Fuhrer make it to Argentina? And is he still alive at 130? photographs of people who are apparently Hitler appear every year. I've got some really good photos. I wish I had some of the photos.
The thing is, though, it's really easy to, because he's such a known face that essentially anyone with like a comb over or a side part, and you go, that's Hitler. That's Hitler. And then just a dodgy mustache, that's Hitler.
Oh, that's definitely Hitler.
Yeah.
If I comb my hair to one side, I look like a fat Hitler. That's true. You know what I mean?
Just get the snot break, Tash. You'll be absolutely fine.
I've done it many a times. I think every guy does it though, don't they?
Mine doesn't grow in the middle, so it doesn't really. Never.
So your body's rejected it. It's like your family history has made it so you can't grow it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
So how do you boys feel about that most widely supported theory?
I mean, it sounds fairly plausible.
Yeah.
But again,
it's a logical approach, but you don't believe it.
No.
Might be an uphill struggle.
I don't like the idea that Hitler got to fucking live out the rest of his life.
Yeah,
and in relative comfort.
Yeah, I feel it's one of those things as well. Is that because he is such a
cunt?
Yeah, and he's the face of the Nazi Party. Like, albeit that people may not remember the face of Joseph Mengele.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
But
like, you're not going to forget the face of Hitler.
But at the time, though, like, especially, I'd imagine, in South America, like, you know, there wasn't TV or internet or anything like that. You're just going to actually know what he looks like, other than, like, there's obviously, like, propaganda photos and stuff, but, like, how much of that reached South America? You know, they weren't actively involved in the war.
So many photographs of kind of and reported sightings of him, but how many of these today have been photoshopped to the extent?
Yeah.
I think back in the day there was a few, but it's always very vague. It's terrible lighting, and it just looks kind of sort of like him.
They're all Bigfoot-like photos.
It's all about this monster. Walking like an Egyptian.
Yeah, I the thing is that I agree. It's one of those ones where it's totally plausible. But I just don't think it is. I think
We'll never know.
Oh, no. I like to believe he did off himself and 20 of his dogs.
I don't like to believe that he offed 20 of his dogs, but
no.
himself, not the doggos.
No.
So
they might have been pricks. No, totally fine.
So, theory number 2.
Okay.
Hitler fled to Antarctica in a U-boat.
And then subsequently froze to death.
Or maybe he was a successful Sub-Zero patient.
Just spent the next 40 years honing his skills.
Meditating.
Among the theories of Hitler's whereabouts after the fall of Nazi Germany in 1945 was the idea that he was smuggled out of Germany and onto a U-boat, similar to the last theory. From there, the Nazi leader was taken to a secret military base in Antarctica. In the late 1950s, British and American forces found the base and destroyed it with atomic weapons. It's said that the Nazis have built a secret base at the South Pole as early as the 1930s. German Navy Grand Admiral Karl Donitz stated in 1943, "The German submarine fleet is proud of having built for the Führer in another part of the world a Shangri-La on land, an impregnable fortress."
Impregnable.
So this implies that Adolf Hitler was smuggled out of Germany and then safely deposited in a secret bunker base in Antarctica until the time in which it was ultimately destroyed by Britain in the 1950s.
Why,
and they nuked it.
Yep. So
I'm pretty sure that if that was the case, that wouldn't be secret because then Britain have finally said, "Fuck yeah, we killed Hitler. He didn't fucking kill himself."
100%.
You would think so. We
nuked to Shangri-La.
Theory subgroup A believe that he was long gone to another part of the world by this point, and Theory B believing that he got blown to bits while still inhabiting this bunker that was obviously blown up. Unfortunately, the theory falters at 3 major points. Firstly, there was never actually physical evidence of a German military presence in Antarctica, despite a pre-war mission there to see if setting up a whaling base would be possible.
Also, I'm pretty sure we don't have satellite footage of there, and you'd probably be able to find a nuked structure
relatively easily.
Yeah.
Just hit him with a projection.
Nibiru.
A call back to an episode you'll never fucking hear.
Maybe one day.
Fuck no.
Under a paywall.
Ben's deleted it already.
We're wiped from the history books.
Secondly, while the 2 U-boats mentioned above did arrive in Argentina after the war, they could not possibly have made it to Antarctica. The ice in the winter blocks all access to the land where any base would have had to have been. And thirdly, while atomic bombs were detonated in the Southern Hemisphere in 1958, these being Hardtack 1, otherwise known as Operation Newsreel, Argus, otherwise known as Operation Floral, and Hardtack 2, known as Operation Millrace. These involved rocket-boosted high-altitude tests in an attempt to create an artificial energy belt in the magnetosphere. These were atmospheric tests hundreds of miles above the surface of the Earth, which took place between 1,400 and 2,100 miles north of Antarctica.
That was like the South African Prime Minister.
What?
He's in the South African Prime Minister. He's got to say, like, there's 14,800,000, 63, whatever. But he just goes like, I've got 14 million. 80 60,000.
Very, very convincing. Yeah.
He just keeps going like 30, 60, 20, 25. So it's like you're looking at it like, that's like $1 billion. Sorry, carry on.
So, needless to say, unfortunately, this theory lacks just a tad of evidence to support its claims. There also exists a theory that he escaped to Antarctica, but in a more interesting and extravagant way.
Zeppelin.
Introduced by our good friend Donald Marshall.
Donald Marshall, the fucking...
It involves satanic cloning.
Yes!
Yeah, here we go.
But we'll not get into that till episode 3.
James.
Okay, so,
You dirty little tease.
okay, I think that's probably a good time to take a break. We'll come back with some more Hitler conspiracy theories, and we've got a quick advert from one of our sponsors.
Cool.
Sound? Yeah, go ahead.
Check out Side of the Show Bob's Building Supplies and Warehouse for all your do-it-yourself needs. Located somewhere on the Dunkeld Road, keep walking. If you think you've seen another Ford garage, you probably have done. Use discount code Jet Fuel Can't Melt Steel Beams for an exclusive 10% discount across all products in store and online. Visit www.diyhigh.co.uk for further details. Remember, that's Jet Fuel Can't Melt Steel Beams for 10% off. That's Jet Fuel Can't Melt Steel Beams.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good. It
breaks the ep up a wee bit.
Yeah, and it's good.
Shite.
It's good. They keep us doing these ads.
I just want to see what else you come up with.
Yeah.
Ryan's Klingon. Special wipes.
Vin Diesel's gym.
Chernobyl. Right, so this is part 2 of episode 2. Hitler not being dead.
Aye. That thing.
Aye.
Okay, so let's just continue where we left off, and we'll move on to theory number 3. Hitler is alive and well and staying in San Diego.
I'm just going to image like Hitler.
Californian Hitler.
just with oh, never mind. I got San Diego and Seattle mixed up. So that's I had this image of like as Hitler dressed as like a grunge, just played long greasy hair. But no, I forgot San Diego. No.
Oh well.
Sorry about that.
Good try.
Hitler at Comic-Con? That's the only
That's
thing I think of
it,
San
yeah.
Diego.
That's it.
It's cosplaying as Hitler.
Okay, so
Loves a new doom. Loves a new doom.
a barracks building in the US Navy base in San Diego's Coronado Island, known as the SEAL's Lair, appears to be in the shape of a swastika. Look at the SEAL's Lair via Google Maps and you will see it clear as daylight.
I'll fucking do it right now.
It's a structure built by the US Navy, curiously shaped like the Nazi symbol, which the Navy has said that they are working to rebuild.
I like to think it's more just where the musician and singer Seal lives.
Was it called Seal's Lair? Yeah.
SEAL's Lair. It's the US Navy base. Instead of trying to go by unnoticed, this theory leads us to think that the Nazi regime and Adolf Hitler chose to establish a base in San Diego, California, in the US, inside a number of buildings interconnected to form the shape of the Nazi swastika.
Why?
We are not here.
Right, we did it. We escaped with our lives. Now what are we going to do? Let's build a massive swastika.
Let's be as subtle as possible here. So, in 2007, the US Navy said it was going to redesign the 1960s building, spending around $600,000 or £375,000 to make it look less racist. They admitted they had actually noticed the shape when it was being built and finally erected, but didn't think anyone would spot it from the ground. Well, that was naive. Any flying object would see it. Any flying object would see it. And of course, cue Google Maps. Bet they fucking hate Google. So, yeah.
The Seal's Lair.
Yeah, SEAL's Lair. It does look like a swastika. You have to give it that.
Nazi seals.
But just because it looks like a swastika, the
Doesn't mean that fucking Hitler was there.
Hitler
Ben
built.
Swanger's punching his mic.
Wasn't fucking there. He died. So shot himself in the fucking head, I'm telling you.
The seals are not Nazis, it's a Buddhist symbol.
Okay, so Hitler is in Spain. There's another.
Hitler went to Spain.
It only rains on the plains.
Hitler went to Spain.
Jesus. There's another theory reported in the book Hitler's Escape by Ron T. Hansig. It tells us that Hitler escaped to Spain in April 1945. According to the author, again, like mentioned previously, the Russian dictator Joseph Stalin was convinced, or at least tried to convince others for political gain, that the Führer managed to escape. One of the most incredible revelations is based around the belief that the corpse found in the bunker that day was a double of Hitler, and there was no trace of Eva Braun's corpse anywhere, in turn disproving the double suicide, which has been taken as a fact in almost every historical publication. A number of sources now claim that Hitler managed to escape by plane to Spain, where General Franco took him in, according to Senor Stefan Aquituna.
The Hitler in Spain
He was one of-
mainly on the plane.
It was one of General Franco's drivers during 1945. He was sent to meet a plane arriving at Madrid airport on the night of April 30th, 1945.
That's no long after his birthday. Was he not born in April?
I think
Was
that's-
that his
yeah,
day?
it's not long after
Yes.
his birthday, but that's the date he's meant to have died. That's the date that he's escaped from the bunker, according to this source. So he described the plane as of German origin and remembered that it arrived very late at night, probably after midnight. Following Franco's instructions, the passenger who had no luggage was transported directly to the palace. In May of 1945, the east wing of General Franco's residence in Madrid was sealed off from the rest of the palace and surrounded by a 14-foot high wall. This extensive and specific construction work has still never been explained. The staff assigned to this wing were also suspiciously all fluent in the German tongue as well.
They're just trying to keep out the Mexicans.
Oh, Ben. In May 1945, Franco's medical staff ordered a carton of 144 bottles of Dr. Coster's anti-gas pills. Now, you know who needed them. We know who was a farting fiend.
Farting fiend.
The flatulent Fuhrer.
This was ordered from Spain's largest pharmaceutical company, and the order was repeated on a monthly basis until October 1947. So, Theo Morrell, Hitler's personal physician, had introduced him to the anti-flatulence medication, and Hitler had become so addicted to the strychnine base of these pills that he was known to swallow them by the handful. Strychnine is a highly toxic, colourless, bitter, crystalline alkaloid, Jesus, used as a pesticide, particularly for killing small vertebrates such as birds and rodents. Strychnine, when inhaled, swallowed or absorbed through the eyes or mouth, causes poisoning, which results in muscular convulsions and eventually death through asphyxia.
And he was gubbing these by the handful?
Yes. So, suddenly, in May of 1945...
So even if he did get there, he died pretty quickly afterwards.
Yeah, so General Franco, May of 1945, suddenly has a need for this medication that Hitler was taking. And this need continues until October 1947. Does this mean that General Franco also had extreme gas, which needed to be treated by this exact compound? Unlikely. Or does this mean that General Franco took him in until October 1947, where he then moved on to another country? Or did the poisonous effect of this chemical take its toll and the ceased trading was caused by Hitler's death?
What gain does Franco have for taking in Hitler? We're Spain, but was Spain not the Allied forces?
Did they not just keep themselves to themselves?
I think Spain. I don't think Spain were involved in the war.
I don't think General Franco was the soundest guy, though. Because that Spanish Civil War was around that time. So
that's true.
That's something to do with political gain for the Spanish Civil War. I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I believe it.
I'm definitely convinced.
What then happened to Hitler after?
Yeah, and
so he's either then moved on to Argentina. He's learned a bit of Spanish and he's moved on.
Died because of his fucking fart pills.
So fart pills, or they've stopped working. He's just farted himself to death. And that's it. So we just have to take that theory for what it is.
That's horse shit.
Okay, so logic starting to fail now. Using secret rocket technology.
Oh, this is the winner. This is the winner.
Hitler fled to a Nazi base on the moon.
Yes.
So
space Nazis.
Does he have a base shaped like a swastika on the dark side of the moon?
Yes.
Of course.
It's like all Nazis, like during the height of their power, never built structures in the shape of swastikas. All of a sudden, when they're supposed to not be around anymore, just buildings, swastika shaped, sound.
It's at this point when Hitler conspiracy theories may just have lost touch with reality altogether. The Nazis' development late in the war of high technology weapons, including the V2, an early ballistic missile, and the Me-262 jet fighter, combined with Operation Paperclip, inspired some to believe that Germany had secretly won the space race. Now, obviously, Operation Paperclip, as you guys...
So you've mentioned that before. What is that again?
So Operation Paperclip was a secret US government program of the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency. More than 1,600 German scientists, engineers and technicians, such as Werner von Braun and his V2 rocket team, were taken from Germany to America for US government employment. So most of this happened between 1945 and 1959.
The Hydra situation.
So many were former members and some were former leaders of the Nazi Party. President Truman officially approved Operation Paperclip and expanded it to take 1,000 German scientists under temporary limited military custody. aka do what you want.
Then put them on the moon.
Aye, then on the dark side of the moon. That may be one of the biggest theories as well. I got
What, that he went to the moon?
Yep. I got made into a film as well.
Iron Sky.
Iron Sky, yeah.
Yeah. So the main purpose for obviously Operation Paperclip was to gain a US military advantage in the Cold War, particularly the space race. Now, the Soviet Union was more aggressive as usual in their recruitment, and they had a very similar operation which employed more than 2,200 German specialists within Operation Ozofakim, or something like that.
The facts of the situation are very interesting, but I want to know more about what Hitler did when he got to the moon.
So,
and does he not know that the moon does not exist?
So this obviously tells us that Nazi Germany was so advanced in its engineering technology that both the US and Russian militaries were able to overlook the fact that they were Nazis, overlook their atrocities, and get them on board to further advance their own engineering. Could the Germans have been that advanced that they had the knowledge and technology to send Hitler to the moon? Is he still there now?
No.
No? No. He's got a base and a crater on the moon.
He's got a base and he is a crater on the moon.
It's called Seal's Lair, and you can see it from Google Maps.
What are they supposed to have done when they got to the moon? Because it's not Iron Sky. They haven't rebuilt their forces and fucking come back with a vengeance.
The Nazis are the only people that have ever been to the moon.
Oh, all right.
NASA's lying.
It's NASA again.
It's very livable.
It's very low. There's actually a fucking climate there, like what do you call it, ozone and shit. Atmosphere. That's the word I'm looking for.
I never really understood where we went wrong. Decided that people started to believe that Nazis are on the moon, but on the dark side of the moon.
Why have you never seen the dark side of the moon? Because it's full of Nazis. Just goose walking all over the shop.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
I think it's a great theory. It was also suggested the Nazis had made contact with UFOs and that they had made it to the moon as early as 1942. Furthermore, Russian and American astronauts actually made it there in the 50s, and they stayed at the Nazi lunar base. So let's keep going with this.
Wait a second.
It is claimed that the moon is perfectly habitable for humans, but the NASA claims it is barren and airless and not livable in order to stop third world countries visiting it.
God.
They don't want them to use it, so they say that it's not livable.
The thing is, you don't really hear
I don't know how
about the King space program that often. Is it such a big issue? But NASA has it. We don't want Rwanda on the moon. They can hardly get control of what's happening down in their own place.
So he was said to have found out ways to prepare a secret bunker on the moon and escape to it when things became too hot on Earth. Upon evaluating some more Reddit theories,
yes,
Elvis Presley and Michael Jackson are also rumoured to have a residence there.
Oh God!
We're not even at the
Elvis and Michael Jackson.
Yep.
I wonder what
they're living with Hitler and his lunar base.
They're now not dead. They're Nazi sympathisers who live on the moon with Hitler.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So we'll just move on.
So,
is there any other famous names there up on there, like Gandhi? Or...
There's a few. And again, I'm just glossing over this because Donald Marshall is to come next episode.
Okay.
So next theory: Hitler contacted the grey aliens and went into outer space. It's believed that the grey aliens approached Hitler and made him a proposal of world control offering him technological advances and supremacy in exchange for an opportunity to achieve their goal of establishing a legitimate presence on Earth. And some theorists are convinced that when the Allied forces ultimately defeated the Nazis' plans of world domination, Hitler was abducted and taken away by the Grey Aliens to an unknown place in the universe.
Put on the interstellar naughty step.
Perhaps to learn some new nasty alien techniques and come back later shooting lasers from his eyes and fireballs from his arsehole.
He's shooting fireballs from his arsehole.
That's a scary thought indeed. Would certainly explain where Dick Cheney came from.
So I don't know what else to say.
Silence.
I honestly love
Recall.
I do. I love Reddit for things like this. Could you imagine like Hitler being taken away by the great aliens? Just the Greys. Oh, what beautiful traveling adventures they would have.
Hitler cloned himself. If one Hitler isn't bad enough, how about a host of little Hitlers penetrating the world?
It's one of those. It's one of those things where it goes. Cloning something doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing. Is that there's multiple things that build up for you to be that person. It happened throughout your life. You just can't go, we're going to clone them with the exact same memories. This is not how it happens.
Okay.
One of them might have gone up to be a good artist.
Yeah.
There's a conspiracy theory out there laying the suggestion that Hitler cloned himself with the help of his insane mad scientist, Dr. Joseph Mengele.
I was getting really excited to see with the help of the insane clown boss.
This theory is developed.
Water, wind and earth. Fucking Hitler. Where did he go?
Shaggy too, no.
This theory has developed just a little bit of substance with the tangible evidence. Hitler was quite interested in biotechnology and gave a free hand to his researchers for their medical experiments, which of course were carried out on the unfortunate and defenceless Jews. So, summarising this theory very quickly, the body found at the bunker was just one of his clones, while Hitler himself was at an undisclosed location during the Berlin invasion. 1978 movie The Boys from Brazil is an interesting movie covering a plot of creating a Fourth Reich by attempting to clone the Führer. What would you boys think about that one?
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Very, very
Well, so wait.
solid.
So then, what's Hitler done since then? If he's got a master plan to clone himself and
He's rebuilding. He's rebuilding his
Still.
forces.
I see.
Yeah.
Still,
Age is on his side.
It's not really going too well. Out of all, I think people would rather be a part of ISIS than be a Nazi. Like, there are groups you'd like to be least joined. They're quite, they're quite at the bottom.
If you look at the evidence, like Hitler's taken the form of Taylor Swift.
Whoa, what?
And this is him building his Fourth Reich.
So wait, what?
That's what he's doing. It's Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
And Taylor Swift fans are the Fourth Reich.
Yes.
What about, like, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but some of the songs are kind of catchy. I mean, am I susceptible to being part of the Fourth Reich?
Who's definitely not a Taylor Swift fan? MIA. Because she has been absolutely ripped off from that new song.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, that's the only real enemy of Taylor Swift right now is MIA.
And MIA is actually a clone of fucking Winston Churchill.
Okay. It's really scared where that's going to go. So is this one of the things that is actually theories that Taylor Swift is just
it's Hitler. It's a cloned version.
Yeah, I feel like that that needs more unpacking.
We'll get into that.
What evidence do we have that?
We'll get into that. I'll give you a bit more information next episode.
Episode 3.
Okay, so let's go back to, let's scrape at logic again.
Oh,
Let's try to.
Was that just a scraping of logic?
I don't
It's
know.
more of a pile of shit.
So the theory that Hitler escaped underground. So
Hollow Earth.
yes. So this theory is based on the fact that Hitler was inside his Berlin bunker at the time of the last Allied bombings. There seemed to be only one way out for the Führer besides death or capture: escape underground. Hitler planned an escape route should he ever be defeated. For him, surrender was not an option, and according to this theory, neither was suicide. Instead, he navigated through an underground tunnel to a remote airport, got on an unmarked plane and flew all the way south to the South Pole. From there, he entered the Hollow Earth through the South Pole entrance. The origin.
So is the South Pole entrance, is that just part of this theory, or is that part of like a wider Hollow Earth theory?
I think it's a wider Hollow Earth, but it's definitely part of this theory. Yeah, it's good. So the origin of this theory develops from the fact that some of Hitler's top advisors, potentially even Hitler himself, did in fact believe that the Earth was hollow. There were even
Is that like legitimate? They actually
legitimate,
did,
yeah. So there were even expeditions by the Nazis to exploit that belief for strategic advantage throughout the war. One notable example of this was as follows. So former World War I German pilot Peter Bender preached the idea of a hollow Earth.
Bomb again.
Gobbler and Bender going hand in hand into the Earth.
Officer Barbie.
So Peter Bender preached the idea of a hollow Earth and that the universe is enclosed in rock. This was picked up after following an occult teaching called Chorism. Bender convinced the Nazis into this belief. Here's an apparent quote from Hitler himself. The theory of the hollowness of the Earth is much closer to the truth than Einstein's nonsense.
That's the best way to try and make something valid, is by attacking someone.
E equals MC fucking bullshit.
So Nazi scientist Dr. Heinz Fischer went with his powerful telescope camera to the Baltic island of Rügen, seemingly believing this to be the centre of Hollow Earth, and went to spy on the British fleet. Fisher did not do this by aiming his cameras across the waters, in which would be kind of fairly acceptable logic. He instead pointed them up into the sky, expecting to see the British through a curved atmosphere in the Atlantic. Needless to say, Fisher's camera saw absolutely nothing but the sky, and the British fleet remained safe. Bender was then sentenced to a concentration camp where he died, and Fisher, who had also attempted to intercept the British using infrared techniques from the same spot, was now a laughingstock. As the occultist following the Nazi Party continued, so did the Hollow Earth theory, with some proponents of the Hollow Earth theory accept this scenario of Hitler's escape as a fact.
Again, going back, likewise with the moon.
I've got a map of the Hollow Earth here as well.
But what's he doing? What's he doing down there? Surely, though, if he's now ruling the inside of the Earth, then his plan for world domination kind of, like, there's more space down there than there is up here?
Yeah,
possibly, but...
So it's Hitler and Mole Man. Is that really good?
He's turned into one of those creatures from The Descent.
Pretty much. There's just that experiment where you just stick a telescope at night and I'll spy on them, I'll see what's happening. And all you see is just the blue sky. And you get sent straight to a concentration camp. But the Nazis believed in the Hollow Earth, like genuinely. It's very strange.
They also believed in lots of nonsense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like lots of occult.
They're very into their
weirdness.
occult practices.
They also believed in eugenics. not the soundest of thinkers.
No, it's
A lot of
I'm having like a deep thought about what you'd be doing in the cinema. Hollow Earthers, that's
It's like, do you know the scene from The Hobbit where there's like the Goblin King, there's all like the wooden like paths and that, and it's like everything's going mental and they're like sliding like that. That's just what I imagine, like a fun fair.
So we've got two more token theories and then we'll just round things off.
So we just agreed that that's complete nonsense.
No, I think we've got Hollow Earth. Just need to be more strategic.
I know.
Spying.
I know our pod isn't on Hollow Earth, but how far do I have to dig to get into Hollow Earth?
A couple of feet. Watch you don't fall through. You're going to land in Africa.
It's people are. I know people are mental. People
Don't
are
judge.
mental. I know. This wouldn't exist without those people, but Jesus. Can you imagine like that? Do you remember that The Rock film? Johnny to the centre of the earth or something?
Yeah.
It'd be really good if that was a twist near the end. They get to the centre and it's just hit that.
It's in his bunker.
Yeah.
It's like the reveal of the Wizard of Oz at the end of the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, exactly.
This is a decrepit Hitler. Like,
Just you hear him farting from a distance, following the sound.
So the earthquakes are just Hitler farting.
He thinks he's on the moon, but he's just sat in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
His farts are causing the earthquakes. Yeah. So like the one that never mind. Stop.
No, go on.
It's like the one that hit Japan recently. That was
Target farts.
yeah, that was it.
As soon as you hesitate, go, no, I'm not going to say it. You know what it's going to be. It's a recall moment.
It's a recall moment,
Because he
yeah.
goes and says it anyway. Okay, so
I'm gonna find it's like finding those videos and just editing fart noises. So they're hiding under tables, shaking all around.
okay, right. Moving on, this one.
Moving on swiftly.
This is a very kind of hopeful theory. People looking for justice. So there's a theory that Hitler died of Parkinson's disease. So
Hopeful.
So that's a hopeful that he dies in a horrible way. The idea is that he survived the Führer bunker, escaped. But some conspiracy theories try to leave us happy, and that justice was partially served by creating a picture where Hitler was finally reduced to a trembling, almost rigid person struggling with the failings of the Nazi regime because he was inflicted by Parkinson's disease in the final days of his life.
What evidence is there to substantiate this?
So after a good hunt through everything, nothing.
So this is
Wishful
just,
thinking of the people that believe he didn't commit suicide in Berlin.
yeah. This is just me and Reddit going like, nah, he got Parkinson's. Died not remembering anything. That is not a happy ending for me. It's like I want him to be alive. I want him to know what he's done.
Yeah.
And he did. He wasn't the way it should have ended the ball. He knew he had lost and ended the game for himself.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't Parkinson's just because somebody said, I hope he gets this and read it.
Some of these theories just made me feel really sad because I was kind of on 4chan at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night. I've got work tomorrow. And I'm reading about how Hitler died of Parkinson's.
It's a job, but someone has to do it, man.
So, believe it or not, it's actually rumoured that he actually did have this disease. It was highly unlikely that he would have died from it due to the fact that Parkinson's is not actually a killer itself. It's only a degenerative disorder that only affects motor and speech skills. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's far from beneficial to have, but
no, especially if you're a shouter like
not.
he is.
Is that what then? Is that so? People like the tremors from his massive amounts of methamphetamine, people say it was actually Parkinson's.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah.
Before he just takes a burner before going on stage, actually, he just inhales it. to clear his sinuses. And he's just sitting there shaking, farting, delivering the speech, so people just presume he had Parkinson's.
That's another one for editing. Just say before he comes onto the stage, just playing the Rudy Sandstorm.
with his penis vacuum. Okay, so
What penis just goes off?
oh no, where's my bull semen? That's the best German accent ever. Okay, last theory, we'll get this. We'll get away from this.
Like turkeys.
So just a token gesture to this. The final theory is that the Führer's body is frozen and kept in a cave in Switzerland, worshipped by New World neo-Nazis, awaiting the right time for his resurrection to bring about the Fourth Reich.
I'm ready, because a really good idea for a New World Order is to pin everything on a leader you're gonna bring back into a world that he knows nothing about. I hope that he can.
I've been needing a fart all this time. So, boys, did he make it to Argentina? Is he still alive?
He's definitely not still alive. If anything, if he survived,
Yeah, it could be like 130.
if he did get to Argentina, then he's dead by now.
Oh, yeah.
Did he make it to Antarctica or Spain, or did he settle for San Diego?
No, I went to the moon line.
Yeah, he's definitely on the moon, or he's in the centre of the earth.
So
Yeah, I think I like the centre of the earth a bit better.
Yeah.
So he fled to the moon or underground. Was he involved with aliens or cloned or anything? No.
Well, apparently for episode 3 he was cloned.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Or did he die in the bunker that day by committing suicide?
I think it was
Most likely he probably.
I like that story as well. I never knew about the fact that the people were like, right, we'll burn them there. Like, oh, fuck it.
Can't be bothered, just throw him in the hole.
Let's have a couple of smokes and let's just leave.
Oh, he hated it. I've been choking for smoke for 25 minutes. There are many believers from both sides of the sanity spectrum, but we will explore some even crazier theories next episode as we get even wilder and deep into the world of Nazi satanic cloning. That's what's to come, boys.
Satanic
fucking
cloning.
What's his boy's name again? David Marshall?
Donald Marshall.
Donald Marshall.
What was the name of the racist wrestler who was all about satanic cloning? Mind him?
Chris Benoit?
Big show.
Never mind. Thank you very much, James.
It's always a pleasure. Apologies for any appalling pronunciation and banter.
That's fine.
But that's what I'm here for.
Sound well.
Yeah, guys.
That's us.
A very low energy finish because Pizza's done a set.
I was struggling. Okay, well, we can enjoy.
Pizza and beer, like, I'm going to wait for a nap now.
We can enjoy satanic cloning next episode, though. Well, cheers, guys.
Right, cheers,
Thanks.
bye.
Thank you very much. Bye now.
Boris Johnson describing women who wear burqas as looking like letterboxes and bank robbers.
Will begin immediate construction of a border wall.
Jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
Thanks for coming. Welcome to the White House.